There's a historical district in Blue Springs, and there's some absolutely gorgeous houses. This one in particular, I've really been wanting to sketch. So creating this video gave me the opportunity to get in the parking lot across from the house and really spend some time looking at it. When you're doing a sketch, a facade of a house, the main thing is to look at shapes. Divide it up into basic shapes. If you'll notice, this is a triangle and some rectangles. But everything you're drawing, keep it simple. Don't be too detailed. You'll also notice I'm not using a pencil. I'm just using my pen and doing what the pen wants to. Sometimes the lines are a little bit crooked. But as we've talked about, that adds a little bit of character when you're urban sketching. This is the line part of the line and wash that I had mentioned earlier. Notice the windows. Sometimes windows have several lines around the outside of them, so you're basically drawing a shape inside a shape. Notice how many panes of glass there are on the top and how many there are on the bottom. And this porch was particularly interesting. One thing you might notice is that there was an iron fence in front of this house, and I decided to leave it out because if I put it in, then it would take away from seeing all the detail at the bottom of the house. The bottom part is made up of stone. So when you're doing stone, or when you're doing the roof or anything that has a texture like this, just remember you're not showing a whole bunch of detail, but you're basically creating a pattern. And when you create a pattern, you don't have to fill it in completely. You're simplifying it as you're going along. Sometimes just placing the pattern here and there in the area that you're filling in, not being afraid to leave white space. There was an interesting texture up on the gables. In order to create the texture, all I had to do was create two diagonal lines going different directions. I did the same thing on the roof, where again, it's a simple pattern, but it's not a complete pattern where I'm leaving spaces open. I just kind of drawing with a really rough line to create that texture. Drawing the lines on the side of the house. They're not straight, but once again, it gives the illusion of the texture that's there. I decided to go ahead and add a couple of the trees that were on the side of the house, just because I had a big blank area on my paper. Again, I simplified these because they had a lot of bushes and there was a lot of different things in front. In order to simplify it, I just added the two bushes in front and just left the rest alone. So I got my sketch finished probably in about 20 minutes. And now I'm starting to put on the wash. Using my water brush and my paint. The triangle parts, or the gables, had purple in them, so I mixed that up. The roof was kind of a darker gray. And the side of the house was kind of a gray-green color, so I tried to mix that up as well. Once I put that on there, I realized that the roof isn't dark enough, so I need to go ahead and add some more gray to that, building up the contrasts. When you're doing line and wash, the color is just there to give the impression of what you're seeing. For the trees, I started out with a darker green and then added a regular kind of an emerald green on top, just so there was two colors mixing together, and I did it kind of in a wet and wet contrast. The sky was a bright blue, and there are several approaches that you can have to creating a sky. One approach is to use the negative space as the cloud, so leave the white of the paper white, and then paint around it with the blue. Now I'm painting this wet on dry. The paper, I did not wet it down beforehand, and notice how I'm holding my brush. Holding my brush sideways allows me to kind of create an interesting flow to the clouds, to the bubble parts of the clouds. And in 30 minutes, my line and wash of the facade of the house is complete.